Hey, what's up everyone, Raging Golden Eagle here, having way too much fun as always. And you'd think we would have figured this out by now. All the calls for inclusivity constantly coming from the SJWs should have clued us in. It's actually quite simple. One of the most effective cures for the SJW cancer is, in fact, exclusivity. Not inclusivity, but exclusivity is by far the best way to protect your communities from this cancer. You just have to be very selective with who you let and who you allow to stay in. From personal experience, the communities I've been a part of that kept themselves exclusive always lasted a lot longer, at least in their original forms, than the wide open ones that let just anybody in. And this lifespan is extended even further if, on top of being exclusive, they're also secret. We really should be learning from how the software piracy groups have been operating for all these years, if not decades already. The groups that tend to stick around the longest are the ones that are invite-only. And if some bad apple happens to get into the group and doesn't completely destroy it via something like alerting the feds or whatnot, then not only are they punished by often being removed from the group, but the person who invited them is as well. So as a community member, you have to think long and hard before you choose to add somebody else in, because if it turns out that they're a disruptive influence, you're both on the way out. Now that you got some skin in the game, all of a sudden you're thinking a lot more carefully, aren't you? And the same goes for all other private communities as well, not just people doing illegal things. I happen to be a member of a few myself that all feel it's in their best interest to just stay below the radar. Just stay hidden as long as they can, stay under the noses of the moral authoritarian busybodies, and as long as you can avoid a moral panic, nobody's gonna give a shit about you, and that's how we want to keep it. It's kind of embarrassing how many videos I've passed up doing simply because I realize in the end, yeah, maybe it's for the best I don't signal boost this. If I do, it'll extend the outrage. If I don't, it's probably gonna blow over in a day or two, as these easily manipulated sheep find something else to be outraged about. And what do you know, that almost always comes to pass. So yeah, I am all for exclusivity. But it doesn't have to be in the form of an iron-fisted dictator deciding who gets to stay and who goes. It could also be dealt with in the same way that a lot of 8chan boards do it. Let the community police itself. SJWs generally don't last long when they have no mommy to cry to in order to force you to do what they want you to do. I've seen a few try to infest various 8chan boards only to leave after a few days of getting insulted and laughed at by everybody. Eventually they realize no mommy is gonna come save them and make all the mean kids stop laughing at them. Although when it comes to 8chan anyway, the one thing I would change is give the users the ability to hide all posts, including replies, by other specific users. Some trolls are very persistent and refuse to ever go away. So just allowing individual forum members to make them invisible entirely would probably be the perfect solution as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, if you think all of this is too harsh, then I sure hope you enjoy getting excluded from your own community once the SJWs co-opt it and deem you not inclusive enough to be included in there. And for the record, I have to state this before all the reeing starts. This obviously does not apply if you are running a platform that prides itself in free speech absolutism. In fact, I'd say if you have a platform that allows users to create their own communities within it, kind of like the greater internet as a whole, if you think about it, then those platforms should always be 100% neutral. But on the level of the individual communities that operate on that platform, that is where the exclusivity kicks in. If you're doing something like, say, trying to have a forum all about awesome anime and manga and sharing it with other fellow fans, having a troll on that board that's always screaming that everything is sexist and racist and misogynistic and homophobic and not inclusive enough, and then tone policing everyone on top of that, contributes nothing but stress and, in fact, may drive some of the good members of your community to leave and find somewhere else to go. This, unfortunately, is a fate that I have seen happen to a few of those free speech absolutism boards. A couple of highly disruptive SJWs showed up, and the moderators refused to kick them out because morality. So eventually all the forum regulars just got sick and tired of seeing the trolls and they stopped showing up. How does that benefit anybody but the trolls that are trying to destroy your community? They need to be treated like the cancer they are and kicked out as soon as they are discovered. And believe me, they would do the exact same thing to you for much less if the roles were reversed. Just look at, for example, what Reset Era recently did, and yeah, it sounds familiar, doesn't it? Because this is the successor to NeoGAF. I'll be linking an article by one angry gamer in the description box below, so you can read through it and laugh at your leisure. But basically, it is now against the rules of Reset Era to say anything even remotely positive about Daniel Vavra of Warhorse Studios, the creators of Kingdom Come Deliverance. Because apparently he's a racist, and they base this on absolutely nothing because when asked for evidence, they can't come up with anything. And anyone saying anything positive about him, even if it's just that, oh, he may be a shitty person, but he makes a good video game. The first part of that is not true, by the way, but from their perspective, some of their own are trying to say, yeah, I don't like him, but he made a good game. Even that is so triggering to some of their community members that they have banned saying anything positive about the guy. And they've already banned people for doing it too. Don't believe me? Check the link in the description box below. It's all there with evidence. Unlike their claims that Daniel Vavra is racist, we actually have evidence to back up what we say. But that aside, as I've said from the beginning, the internet is more than big enough for everybody. These SJWs already have plenty of their own safe spaces that they can go to if they want a hug box, like for example, Reset Era, which we just covered. You are not obligated to tolerate these cancerous parasites in your own communities, so just remove them already. And if your first reaction to everything I just said is to respond with, well then you'd be just as bad as them, I suggest you stop and just take a look around you and observe the state of things right now. This is where that train of feeling has led us. You have continuously let them walk all over you. They know you won't do anything. They know you will let them get away with anything. People like you are the reason the loud, whiny minority are so bold and in charge right now. And I gotta say, you've clearly never been in a fight before. Especially one where one guy tries to fight fair and then the other guy starts using every low blow and trick in the book the second he starts losing. Real life ain't a goddamn movie. If you don't adapt your tactics accordingly, you will be the one that gets your ass kicked. Trust me, if there is an audience and they see that one side is blatantly cheating or resorting to low blows, they will actively call for that guy's head and will cheer you on if you do the same thing right back at him and teach him a lesson. Everyone that matters is gonna be on your side. Or you can just do what you have been doing and just not fight back in any effective way. You can lose with your alleged honor intact. Then they will simply victoriously stand upon your corpse, which is still a corpse regardless of how allegedly honorably it has become one. Now, I'm not saying you should be the one to take it down to that level and win by any cost, but if your enemy does it first, then that makes it fair game for you to respond in kind. And to make things better, especially if it's something you've been wanting to do from the start, they lose all right to complain about it if they did it first. I mean, sure, they can try, but the only people that fall for it are, people like you, funny enough. Huh. And before I sign off, to prove my point, look at how the Japanese H-game makers responded to the whole Rayplay fiasco a few years back. Yeah, I know, I keep using that example over and over again, but it's still relevant, it's still important. What they did was they locked down their websites to only allow Japanese IPs, and then they went about as normal. That was their response to the Western moral panic. And sure enough, the moral panic disappeared after about a week. Again, as I mentioned before, the easily manipulated sheep just found something else to be outraged about and moved on to that, and then just completely forgot all about Rayplay. And because all of these H-game makers responded the way they did, by making themselves even more exclusive than they were before effectively, they are now stronger and more popular than ever, and funny enough, at this point, some of them are even courting the English market directly. They're starting to figure out just how extensively pirated their stuff is here in the West, and are starting to see them dollar signs up in their eyeballs. And if they happen to be shut down by yet another moral panic, oh well, they're just gonna go back and do exactly what they did last time, just wall themselves off again, wait for it to blow over, and then continue growing strong as they did before. They are safe as long as they keep themselves exclusive and don't allow any parasites in. Don't allow any SJWs to ever gain any sort of power, and all the rest of us would do well to learn from them. That's all I gotta say, guys. Thanks for listening.